stream. And remember, we got our 60-second pre-roll.
Look at me. What you perceive creates an illusion of who I am.
You don't know me.
You don't know me.
These arms hold the weight of my ambition. These hands craft efficiency. I build machines that gather light and give energy to my needs. Solar panels that power to make our future green.
You don't know me.
You just see me. My fingers are on the pulse of man's quest. I build robotics to inform what's next. In these innovations lie our success.
You don't know me.
I will belong to no limits. I code, I build, I create, I make.
You don't know me.
You don't know me.
You don't know me.
But you will.
All right, you are live in 3, 2, 1.
Today on Success is the New Black, we have a special guest, Maci Peterson. Her app, On Second Thought, is going to completely change your texting game. We're going to talk her experience, fundraising, and how she broke into the boys club of Silicon Valley. Stay tuned.
Beg you something, please. Baby, don't you leave. Don't leave me stuck here in the street.
We are working here on yet another edition of Success is the New Black. I'm one of your hosts, Tara Johnson, and I'm here with the lovely, grooving Ashida Onrae.
Hello, everyone. It's Ashida Onrae, and I am so excited to be here. Happy Sunday, and thanks for joining us again on this wonderful Sunday. And we are here to inspire you.
Yeah, we have a fantastic, no, seriously, I've been waiting for this for weeks to have this beautiful, intelligent woman on the show. If you guys, I know you all text, but things with texting are going to be done a little bit differently thanks to our special guest, Maci Peterson. She is the co-founder and CEO of On Second Thought. It's a text messaging application that will help you stop making those many mistakes that we make with text messages. So we want to welcome her to the program right now. Hello, Maci. How are you doing?
Hello.
How are you?
I am doing wonderful. How are you?
Fantastic. Thank you so much for being here today. We're on West Coast and Maci's on the East Coast. It's a little bit later for her, but she's still joining us, and we really appreciate that.
Oh, of course. I'm happy to be here. I'm actually back on the West Coast today. So
here we go.
It works out.
We're all lined up. Here we go.
Yeah, exactly.
So I want to dive right in. Your application, On Second Thought, which I will say I have been using as my text messaging application for, I don't know, maybe over a year now. Is it true that you started and created this application based on some misinformation you were giving when you were texting some ex-boyfriends? Is that how this application came about?
Yeah. So an ex-boyfriend had been calling me, and for some reason I just kept missing his calls. We'd been broken up for about 6 months at that point, and I wasn't avoiding him, but I just couldn't answer quickly enough. And so I'd written, hey, for some reason I keep missing your calls. And autocorrect changed it to, hey, for some reason I keep missing that part of his anatomy that rhymes with balls, calls, if you know what it is. And of course, that was not what I was trying to say to him. And so it was a really embarrassing situation that led to the inspiration of On Second Thought and innovating on messaging.
I bet he was happy when he got that text message, though.
He was like, okay, I'll be on a flight. I was like, no, I meant calls. Stay there, tiger.
So everyone knows On Second Thought is a text messaging application that you can use. So you write your text message and you actually hit the send button, but you have a way, it has a grace period before it sends the message, just like you have email delays. So you can set the grace period from 0 seconds to 60 seconds, and you'll see the text messages as it's processing. But at any time during that, if you read it and realize that's not what I want to say, I'm in the wrong mood, I shouldn't be sending that text message anyway, it's, the autocorrect has done something differently to it, you can swipe and it'll recall the message and you can correct whatever mistake you want to correct. That's amazing.
That is amazing.
You do an amazing job explaining it.
Oh,
I
thank
should bring
you.
it up road with
Well,
me.
I honestly, I use it. This is like my text messaging application, and it really has helped me. I haven't had that instance with an ex-boyfriend, but it's helped me, stop making these mistakes that you make with text messages, or you leave out words. It just happens in every day, with every day. So, Maci, you have a background actually in marketing and production, but you decided to go into the tech industry. How did you even know the first step to take? Because right now I would just sit there and go, well, I have a wish and a dream. I don't know how to implement it.
Yeah, it was a wish and a dream and a whole lot of prayer. So I never actually saw myself in the tech industry when I got started with On Second Thought. I knew that I'd been interested in entrepreneurship. I started my first business when I was in college, but I didn't think it would be in tech. And so when I came up with this idea, really didn't know where to get started, but I realized that I'd somehow found myself in the DC tech scene because I happened to have a lot of friends in it. I found myself at a lot of their events and parties. And so as a result, when I decided that pursuing On Second Thought was something I wanted to do, I actually had some folks who I wanted to call, or who I could call, to find out, how to get started. And what was the first step to take. But the biggest thing I would say was that I would talk to people about what I had in mind and my idea. And I had the assurance and took the risk of sharing it and hoping that they wouldn't steal it, and no one did. And because of that openness and talking to people, I was able to kick the tires on the idea, find out different ways to get started, and eventually grow this company. It was through talking to people that I realized that one of my closest friends from college had been working in the tech industry for the entirety of his career, so about 5 years. And through our conversations, I realized that he would be a really great co-founder. And so I eventually brought him on as my co-founder. So I know people are always really afraid of someone stealing their idea, but I always say no one has time to steal your idea. So the best way to kick the tires is by talking to people.
That makes sense.
Yeah, no.
I'm sorry, didn't mean to cut you
You're
off.
fine.
That actually, hi, it's Ashida. That actually makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense. And I'm so glad that you brought that up, because so many people are afraid of people taking their ideas. They have you sign agreements and disclosures and everything. And you made a really good point that nowadays nobody really has time. Not only the time, but just the bandwidth to develop that.
It's true.
You know what I mean? Because it's like, that's a great idea. Okay, but now what do I do?
Right.
How do I, raise money? How do I keep it going? So people will say it's a great idea, but just to be able to get it up and running and then sustaining it is a whole different game.
Yeah, and that's a good point, Ashida, because when we launched, about a lot of people said, oh, I thought of that, or I had that idea. And the thing about it is, the idea of On Second Thought, our technology isn't particularly groundbreaking in that no one's ever thought of it before. The thing is that it was one of those ideas that was right under everyone's nose, and people assumed that it had already been done or that it was impossible to do. And so because of that, while lots of people, as you said, may think of something, we were the only ones to execute. And as a result, we were able to get a patent on the technology because it was patentable, because no one had actually gone out and done it.
That's fantastic.
That is fantastic.
To even make those kind of strides. Now, do you have any coding experience yourself in order to put this application together?
Beyond making a remedial website, no. Which is why I brought on my co-founder, who is one of my good friends. He has the technical background, and as a result has been able to lead the development of the app and the company. And just because we've been so blessed to have people who are interested in what we're doing, we've attracted some incredible talent that's been able to take our technology and our business to the next level.
Now, question. I remember watching in Silicon Valley, I was watching this program, can't remember the program, but it was, everybody's trying to be the next Snapchat or the next Instagram. And they would go into a room and they would literally live in their room for days, and they're just putting the technology together. They're putting, they're getting prepared for conferences so they can raise money. Was that your experience when you were first working on the technology for the app? Is that what life is like when you're working in technology, where you're just spending hours and you're just living, breathing, eating, everything, trying to get this technology up and running?
No, I mean,
I love stories like this because you're like, oh my God.
She's like, this was not the social network.
Maybe for some, not for me. When I started the company, I actually had a full-time job elsewhere. So I was at a subsidiary of the Washington Post. And then when we really got into the engineering and the building, I was at Marriott. Working full-time at their headquarters. So no, I didn't have the opportunity to be locked in a room for days at a time, mainly because I had a day job to get to. But I mean, we do have those days and nights where, we're working all day, all night. And it's one of those things where if you love it, it doesn't feel like work. I mean, for instance, it's Sunday night and I had to come into my office today because I had work to do. So it's just one of those things where you do what you have to do in order to get things done, because at the end of the day, there is likely someone in their garage who's trying to kick our butt.
Oh,
yeah.
I like that.
I love it.
Now she just spoke some truth. There is somebody else in a garage right now trying to kick our butt.
Yeah.
Because when you come up with an idea, and entrepreneurs, viewers, you need to hear this and understand this extremely clearly. As soon as you come up with something, someone's going to do it. They're going to look at it and they're going to try to figure out how to do it better. If you want an example, look at Netflix. Netflix came out. Next thing you know, you got Amazon.
Right. It's true.
And it's just ongoing. So I just love that you made that important comment, because that is so relevant and so important. Now I want to talk. Go ahead.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Just because you're first doesn't mean you're safe, right?
Yeah.
Like you said, it means that other people are looking at what you're doing, trying to figure out another way to do it. I mean, I've seen competition creep up on us. They're infringing on our patents. And we are watching them, and we have a very healthy awareness of they are trying to take us out.
Be very real with it. No,
Yeah.
that's it. You have to be honest with it. Yeah.
And so we have to continue to not just be first, but be best.
I love it.
Amazing. How did you handle starting an app and also having a full-time job when you had a position of like brand manager at a pretty big flagship hotel? So like, how are you able to do both of them? Most of the time they say you can't serve two masters. So how did you handle it?
And you can't serve two masters, I mean, it was seriously by the grace of God that I was able to do both for as long as I did. The biggest thing was that I was incredibly transparent with my entire chain of command. So from my immediate boss all the way up to the C-suite. The good thing is that when Marriott hired me, they knew that I had, on second thought, I had already won first place in the competition at South by Southwest. So part of the reason why they hired me was for my my expertise in innovation. But I'll never forget that we were having our all hands on deck meeting for the 2016 planning. So my boss's boss was distributing projects. And I said to him, I was like, hey, Lance, really good news. An investor wants to meet with me. He's like, oh, that's awesome. And I was like, yeah, but it's going to be the same day as our all hands on deck meeting. And he's like, wow, well, sounds like you really need to make it to that meeting. And so he allowed me to call in. And he redistributed my projects so that instead of leading new ones, I would be handling the maintenance on existing projects. So then I wouldn't have to dedicate time to Marriott when I got home at night. I could focus solely on second thought. The other thing is, like I said, the entire chain of command knew exactly what I was up to, because I was going to be on the morning I was on the morning news one day, and I didn't want any surprises. I didn't want people to say, like, what's Maci Peterson doing on the morning news, and why is she talking about, this outside project? And so everyone, like I said, from my boss up to the chief officer of our group knew what was going on. It was because of that transparency that I actually had a lot of freedom. So I was able to work from home a lot. And because of their understanding, I gave them 6 weeks notice when I decided to leave, because I wanted to make sure that they had enough time to fill my position.
Wow, that's amazing. That's not everyone's story when it comes
Yeah.
to working on
Yeah.
something else. But I would say that I would attribute that to the value that you brought to the position that you were in at the time. That, you know, they knew you were a special person with special, you know, talents to come to the company, however long you were there, and they appreciated that.
Right.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. I mean, it's not the case for everyone, but it was a huge blessing for me.
When you developed this app and launched it, I mean, you have been featured in tons of tech magazines, Black Enterprise. You've been noted in Essence magazine. In this world with so many products, so many services, and so many applications, what did you do to get your name to rise to the top so people could really, you know, have noticed that this company was even on the rise?
Yeah. When I tell you this company has just been filled with miracles, I'm seriously not even kidding. Um, so when we launched, well, before we launched, we'd had a little bit of press, like from my neighborhood or my hometown newspaper. And then we were a featured startup and exhibitor at the Web Summit in Dublin. And so the Irish Times, as well as the Independent, had covered us. And then when I got back to DC, like I said, we were on the morning news. But when we launched, I really just sent an email to my friends who were in journalism and saying, hey, I launched this product. I think it's pretty cool. You should write about it. And as a result, a number of my friends did write about it. And then as a result of that, like more people started reaching out to us. And then at one point we had in March, for some reason, we went minimally viral in the Black media space, especially. And we had about 140 articles written about us in about 48 hours.
Wow.
Yeah. And then from there, you know, outlets abroad started picking us up. So like throughout Africa, France, throughout Europe, South America, Latin America, started picking us up and writing about us as well. And so it's gotten to the point where, you know, most of the press that we get, they don't even interview us. So they write about articles that have been written. But the other thing is, you know, we've just had the blessing of having a steady stream of press for 2 years now.
That's awesome.
That's amazing.
I want to ask you a question on funding.
Mm-hmm.
When you're starting, because that's one of the hiccups that a lot of entrepreneurs have, is funding, because they get so far, they go to their family and their friends, and then it just kind of stops. And then they're feeling like, okay, what's next? What do I do? What was your journey, and what advice do you have for other entrepreneurs, not necessarily in the tech, but just in general for funding?
I would say be persistent and be creative. So for us, we bootstrapped first. So that was part of the reason why I stayed at Marriott for a while. I mean, I wasn't there that long, but I stayed there because I was able to split my salary in half and dedicate half to On Second Thought and half for living expenses. And then when On Second Thought expenses got to be a bit too high, I said to my landlord, hey, sorry, you'll get your rent. You're just not going to get it today.
I love her.
You're going to get it.
And then when we got back from Dublin, so, you know, 4 weeks before we launched our beta, we got our first friends and family check-in, and we raised almost $200,000 from friends and family. And then we also won about 5 pitch competitions, from which we received a lot of other money. And then we started raising our seed round, and our seed round took a really long time to raise. Thank God it's fully committed now, and we're closing on it right now. But a lot of it is persistence, maintaining relationships, keeping people updated on your progress, and really just allowing yourself to genuinely get to know others. So for some investors, they were like, you know, you guys are too early now, but we really believe in you. And because of that, we want to invest in a future round. of funding. But I mean, really, it's persistence. Like it's not easy, but being an entrepreneur isn't easy. It's possibly one of the hardest things in the world to do. But what the difference between successful companies and unsuccessful companies is mainly the persistence of the entrepreneur. I mean, some things are just really bad ideas, but someone at a conference said, the company doesn't fail or go out of business when they run out of money. They go out of business when the entrepreneur gives up. And I think that's absolutely true.
Yeah, that is true.
That's like an Oprah tweetable moment.
You're right. It's an aha moment. Like, yes, I understand that. That makes sense.
Yeah. So you just have to stick with it. I mean, it's hard. I think everyone's had that moment when they almost ran out, but by the grace of God, things happen, more comes in, but you just have to stick with it. Most of the difference between success and failure is persistence.
That's true. And I also think that the journey of what you spoke about with persistence and failure and it being rough and it's a journey is that it's preparing you for the levels of success that you would have. So when you make it at a certain level, you're like, okay, great. But now all those experiences beforehand will help you get to the next, because now you're dealing with, you got several 100,000 people taking your app, using your app. Now you have shareholders maybe you have to answer to, or, investors are looking at you, and now you have competition. Now you have haters who are, saying stuff about you. This app sucks and I can't get this. And, so it's training wheels. Absolutely. And people have to look at it that way, that it's training wheels for you.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's a really good point. So we've had, I would say, 3 significantly hard points with this company where, so tough that I've been like, God, if this isn't what you have for me, then I need you to let me know right now because I'm out.
I heard that.
And what's been so interesting is that those tough times, I've always sensed God saying, I'm stretching you, but you won't snap. And just like a slingshot, all of that tension then propels us so far forward. So, for instance, the first time it was like a slingshot, it was while we were getting the product out. And that was a disaster. Like the original production was a disaster. But it catapulted us to not only launching, but having all the press to support it. The second time was last May, and it was one of the darkest periods and hardest periods of my life. And that catapulted us into winning all kinds of pitch competitions, raising all kinds of money, and really setting us up for the success. The third time was this winter, and that was about a 6-month period, which was, once again, the hardest period of my life to date. But that catapulted us into at the other side of that, there were wireless carriers approaching us about licensing our technology and us closing out our seed round. And so that's where we are now, is we're actually starting to license our technology to wireless carriers as well as social media platforms and other apps so that you can unsend anything you send on mobile. And so, I've started to, when these tough periods come, I've started to really embrace them, because I know that on the other side of that, God has something amazing, incredible, and unimaginable.
Yeah, those training wheels
are serious.
Yeah, they're a bitch, but they're real. No, they're a bitch.
They are. That too.
They are a bitch, but it's real.
Is this absolutely necessary?
I know, right? Can we just go past this? I appreciate the lesson. Let's just go.
Right. Sometimes I just say, you know what, Lord, I love you.
Right.
And I've learned many lessons already. And, there's so many other people that need this lesson. Right. I don't need to relive it. I don't want
to be greedy.
You're right.
I don't have to learn it again.
Right.
I don't want to do this anymore. I'm tapping out. Fine. Right.
Exactly. Like, or can someone else take the test for me?
Yeah. I mean, I appreciate you talking about persistence, not only when it comes to capital and running the company, but also you're in an industry where there's just not a lot of other, not just women, but women of color. And,
yeah.
Me coming from the legal background, I can tell story after story of me walking into a boardroom where I'm like the closing attorney on the deal, and the guy's like, "Can you get me coffee?" And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with someone getting someone coffee, but that's just kind of the perception that I dealt with in my legal career. Have you encountered, maybe not something that severe, but just dealing with this kind of, we've heard about the boys club when it comes to Silicon Valley. I mean, what has your experience been dealing with that?
I've had all of your experiences and more. So, I have so many stories. One day, I was meeting with investors, and I'm the one who built the relationship, and my partner was there, and my partner is a man. And the investors these particular ones had not met me yet. And so they're directing all questions to him. And then they said to me, "So what do you do here?" And I was like,
Let's talk about not doing your research.
Yeah, I was like, "I get the coffee. Like, what do you think?" Like, It's like, I'm the CEO. This is my company, and I'm the majority shareholder. So,
and what's the look on their face when you say that? Are they stunned? Are they ashamed? Are they just remorseful? Like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't." I mean, because what's your comeback for that?
Right.
Right. Like, sorry, I didn't think that like a woman belonged here. I don't know.
Wow.
No, they're like, "Oh, I'm sorry." Like, and I'm just like, whatever, dude. Or there was another time when I had another meeting with investors, and we had just hired this man. He'd been on our team for like 2 weeks. And I brought him into this meeting because he was leading a very specific part of the company that was necessary for this investor meeting. And the investors are asking him all the questions, and like only giving a positive response to my answers once this other guy validated them. And I was like, "This man has been in my company for 2 weeks. Like, he does not know jack squat."
Right.
Like,
I'm giving him notes for this meeting.
Right.
To like understand.
Yeah, like, what in the world? So yeah, I mean, there's just like so many, things that are said or done, and then just even from men in the space, like I was part of a demo day back in DC, and we were doing a practice run, and I did my practice pitch for On Second Thought, and a guy raised his hand, and he was like, "I expected you to have some like dumb sorority girl company, but what you're doing is actually really cool." He was just like,
I think that's a compliment somewhere in that statement.
Yeah.
I was just like, thank you. Like, but the cool thing about that was that everyone immediately like slammed in on him and like leaned into him, and they pulled him in the hallway, and they were like, "That was so disrespectful. It's unacceptable for this community." Like, they threatened to kick him out. They came to me, apologized profusely, let me know that like that kind of behavior is not accepted there, and that's what I've seen happen most of the time. Is when someone behaves poorly, other people will not only call them out but also reprimand them, and therefore like I don't really have to do it myself. I'm just able to let them look silly and know it.
Yeah. That's a good strategy, actually.
Perfect strategy.
Yeah.
What's your advice for someone, maybe another woman who's wants to get into the tech industry, or even a younger person who's maybe intimidated, thinking about, I want to go into tech, but there's not a lot of women there, not a lot of women of color. Like, what advice could you offer to them?
One is, don't allow quiet intimidation to deter you. That's what pioneers are for. Everyone has to be the first one. Kind of to your background in law. So my father is actually an attorney, or a retired attorney, but he was the first Black partner at his law firm.
Love it.
And this is one of the oldest law firms in Chicago. And, so I was always raised not to allow the fact that I'm the only one in whatever the category might be, to keep me away from doing anything. Because if I'm not going to do it, then who will? And as long as we say, well, there's no one who looks like me, I'm going to stay away, then that doesn't solve the problem. because because if no one is the first to step in, then everyone will stay away from it. But if people are brave enough and are obedient to say, I might be the only one, I understand that, and I know that by me being here, it'll make it easier for those to come in the future, then that's how we really start to see change. But if we continue to stay on the sidelines, then we're going to continue to be disappointed.
Yeah, that's true.
I love it.
Life takes bravery.
It really does.
It does.
And entrepreneurship definitely takes bravery.
If you're not brave, you could not be an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
No,
Totally not.
No, can't do it.
I want to ask you, kind of wrap up, what's next for On Second Thought? What's next for you? What else can we expect?
So as I mentioned, we're starting to license our technology. So we have our first launch partner. They're out of the UK. And then we're talking to about 10 carriers around the world, including the ones here. And so what that means is that when you purchase your phone or you update your software, the ability to unsend your text messages will automatically be there as a standard feature.
Nice.
We're also going to license to social media platforms and other messaging apps and dating apps and gaming apps, basically anywhere where you send messages, document transfers, mobile money transfers, so that the ability to unsend things becomes ubiquitous. So we're really excited about that. We're also doing some fun things with machine learning and artificial intelligence in order to better study and understand and analyze messaging behaviors, so that not only but we can also help other messaging platforms provide and deliver optimized experience to their customers. And we hope to continue to help everyone fix those darn mistakes they make in communication.
There are going to be some sad men, though. Men are just going to be sad because they're like, I don't get those messages like I used
Actually,
to.
they usually get the drunk message when you're out with your girlfriend and you're heartbroken and you send those drunk texts and then your friend is going to be like, all right, well, we got 30 seconds, 60 seconds to think about this before we hit send.
Before it goes through. Or On Second Thought also has the curfew feature. The curfew, where'd the curfew feature come from, Maci?
Yeah, so actually one of my friends on Wall Street came up with that idea. Well, actually, it's funny. My dad came up with that idea first. And then, and I was like, Dad, I don't know, because he's like, he listens to their parents in their 60s about features that could be for like people, like drunken people. So I was like, you haven't drank in like 30 years. I don't know if you know what you're talking about. And then my friend on Wall Street was like, oh, it'd be so cool if you like embargoed messages until the next morning. And I was like, yeah, like that's a great idea. I should do that. And so I was telling my dad about that, and he was like, Maci, I gave you that idea as soon as you thought of this app idea.
Dad, you're getting credit here.
Yeah.
So it was my dad and one of my friends who was a banker on Wall Street.
I think it's brilliant because when you go out, like you were saying, when you go out after 10 p.m., if you're out, you might not want to send any text messages.
Yep.
So just hit the settings, and from 10 to whatever time the next day.
When the emotions are really heavy, after 10 o'clock is when those emotions get real heavy.
All types of emotions.
Yes.
So turn off that text messaging ability and from 10 p.m. to whatever time the next day, and then you can make a decision the next day when more level heads prevail.
Right. And soberness.
Exactly. You can go through your list and decide, oh yeah, I want to send that, or oh my gosh, I can't believe I was going to say that. That person.
Classic.
Maci, thank you so much. I really appreciate you being here and sharing your experiences. And we are like, I use On Second Thought all the time. She has you covered. It's on Droid. It's on your iPhone. And soon it'll be on your social media platforms and your phone, your wireless phone carriers. It will be everywhere. And I couldn't be more excited and happier for you and all your success.
Absolutely. Ditto. I know I just aged myself saying that, didn't I?
We're going to recall that. If you want to recall that and say it again, Ashida, you can do that.
I aged myself. I was like, ditto.
It's okay. Maybe one day we'll also have it for our mouths.
Right.
Because I feel like a lot of politicians would use it.
Right.
Oh, that's a whole different show. Thank you again for being here. We really appreciate it.
Thanks.
So Sheeta, tell everybody. Oh, Maci, tell them where they can find On Second Thought, where they can find you on social media. I want to make sure everyone follows you.
Oh, thank you. So you can find On Second Thought in the Google Play Store. And you can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. On Second Thoughts, handles are at On Second Thought on Twitter. And then we're on Facebook, and then On Second Thought app on Instagram. And then for me, I'm just at Maci Peterson on Twitter and Maci_Peterson on Instagram.
This will not be the last time you hear this name. Like,
No.
this is a technology, like guru, like tycoon coming right from
I'm
at
loving
you.
this.
Yeah. Ashida, tell everybody where they can find you.
So I'm Ashida Onrae. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook.
And I'm Tara Johnson. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at TJ Wagging Her Tail. And this is this Sunday's edition of Success is the New Black. Thank you so much for being here with us, Maci. Again, we think you're awesome. Did that age me saying awesome?
No,
Can I say
not
that?
like
Okay.
ditto.
Okay,
Nope,
that
not
might
like
be
ditto.
true.
I think you guys are wonderful and fantastic.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks.
Until next Sunday, we'll see you here again. Bye.
Bye.
From executives Keven Undergaro, Dario Kristen, Tiana Hobson, and the entire BHL staff, we would like to thank you for supporting Black Hollywood Live, the first online broadcast network dedicated to African American entertainment. For questions and comments, contact us. info@blackhollywoodlive.com. Like us on Facebook, tweet us, or Instagram us at BHL Online. And I am the official voice of Black Hollywood Live, Scipio. Instagram me at KingXOBay. Thanks for tuning in. The views expressed here are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of BHL or its owners or principals.